Have you ever wondered how different our lives could be if we truly listened to what God is trying to tell us? The art of listening, particularly in the context of our spiritual journey, is of paramount importance. It's not merely about hearing, it's about understanding, absorbing, and allowing the divine wisdom to seep into our hearts and minds. When we make the conscious decision to listen, we open ourselves up to guidance, clarity, and the profound wisdom that God bestows upon us. It is through this act of listening that we can navigate the complex labyrinth of life, armed with divine insight and direction. Listening to God's voice is not a passive act, but one filled with intention, humility, and openness. It's about quieting the noise, the distractions, the doubts, and truly tuning into the divine frequency that is ever present, ever guiding. Now imagine a world where everyone listens to the voice of God. How different it would be. There's a story in the Bible about a young boy who listened to God's voice. His name was Samuel. Samuel's story starts when he was just a boy, living in the temple under the care of Eli, the high priest. One night he heard a voice calling his name. Thinking it was Eli, he rushed to his side, only to find that the priest hadn't called him. This happened 3 times before Eli realized that it was the Lord calling Samuel. He advised the young boy to respond, "Speak, Lord, for your servant is listening," the next time he heard the voice. Sure enough, when the voice called again, Samuel responded as instructed, marking the beginning of his journey as a prophet. Samuel's willingness to listen, to truly hear God's voice, was the first step on his path to becoming one of Israel's most influential prophets. But it wasn't just his ability to listen that set Samuel apart. It was his obedience, his commitment to follow God's instructions, even when they were challenging. When God revealed to Samuel that he was going to punish Eli's household for their sins, it was a heavy burden for a young boy to bear. Yet Samuel did not shy away from his duty. He shared the divine message with Eli, and from that moment on, all of Israel recognized Samuel as a prophet of the Lord. Throughout his life, Samuel continued to listen to God's voice, to carry out his commands, and to lead his people. His obedience, his willingness to listen, his unwavering commitment to God's instructions made him a beacon of faithfulness in a time of spiritual darkness. In every decision he made, every action he took, Samuel demonstrated the transformative power of listening to God's voice. He taught his people, and he teaches us today, that when we listen to God's voice and obey his commands, we can make a significant difference in our world. Samuel's story teaches us that when we listen to God's voice and obey his commands, we can make a significant difference in our world. Listening is just the first step. The next step is to act on what we've heard. That's where obedience comes in. You see, obedience isn't just a matter of following rules or conforming to expectations. It's a heart posture, an attitude that says, "I trust you, God, and I'm willing to align my actions with your commands." It's a commitment to bring our lives into harmony with the divine plan, and it's a powerful tool for spiritual growth. Consider the story of Abraham. When God told him to leave his homeland and go to a place he did not know, Abraham trusted and obeyed. He didn't know where he was going, but he was confident in who was leading him. His obedience led him to become the father of a great nation, and his faith was credited to him as righteousness. Or take the story of Noah. In a time when the world had turned away from God, Noah was a righteous man who walked with God. When God commanded him to build an ark, Noah didn't question or hesitate. He simply obeyed, even when it seemed absurd to others. His obedience saved him and his family from the flood, showing us that obedience to God can lead to deliverance and preservation. In the New Testament, we see obedience in the life of the Apostle Paul. Once a persecutor of the church, Paul encountered the risen Christ, and his life was forever changed. He obeyed God's call to become a missionary to the Gentiles, and through his obedience, the gospel spread throughout the known world. These stories are not just ancient history, they are examples for us, showing us that when we listen to God's voice and respond in obedience, we can experience his blessings in extraordinary ways. Obedience, then, is not about legalism or blind conformity. It's about trust, surrender, and alignment with the heart of God. It's about saying, "Not my will, but yours be done." When we obey God's voice, we align ourselves with his will, and that's when we can truly experience his blessings. So, what have we learned today? We've embarked on a journey of understanding the art of listening, delving into the story of Samuel, and exploring the power of obedience. Let's take a moment to reflect on these significant points and consider how they resonate with our own lives. First, we discussed the importance of listening. especially to the voice of God. We're often caught up in the chaos of our daily lives, but let's remember the importance of taking a step back and truly listening. It's in these quiet moments that we can hear the whispers of divine wisdom, guiding us along the right path. Next, we dove into the story of Samuel, a man who exemplified the art of listening to God's voice. Samuel's life serves as a reminder of the significance of paying attention to divine instructions. His story teaches us that it's not just about hearing God's voice, but also about understanding and acting upon his words. Then we talked about the power of obedience, a trait that Samuel embodied. Obedience to God's commands is not just about following rules. It's about trust, faith, and love. It's about the recognition that God's instructions are for our benefit, guiding us towards the best version of ourselves. Samuel's obedience led him to be one of the most influential prophets, demonstrating that obedience to God can lead us to a life of purpose and impact. As we reflect on these points, let's consider how they apply to our own lives. Are we making time to listen to God's voice amidst the noise of our daily routines? Are we striving to understand and act upon his words? Are we obedient to his commands, trusting that he knows what's best for us? These reflections can guide us towards a life aligned with God's purpose, leading to fulfillment and peace. As we go about our daily lives, may we strive to listen to God's voice and obey his commands. Just like Samuel, we too can make a significant difference in our world.